So you see the first, you see my screen presently?
Oh, yes, it's good. Yeah.
Okay, so for those who don't know me, I'm living near Quebec City. I am a technical advisor in Maple since more than 30 years. I have to take care of a lot of farm who make maple syrup here. I am taking care about almost 300 farms doing 3 million taps together. And I do that for more than 25 years. So the things that I'm going to show you is the thing that it's really my work to help people to have a nice syrup and helping them to have a good condition to work. So you just heard my best English. If you don't understand nothing, it's the time to quit the room and go somewhere else. So I'm doing maple syrup on my own farm. Me and my neighbor we are put together our farms, so we are boiling only in one place. And it was a good decision that we made a few years ago when a big storm break apart all my sugar house. There was nothing left. Bigger tree on my forest fall in my on my sugar house. So now my sap is boiling in the neighbor on the neighbor farm, and we put our sap together. So today I will present you things about how to uh, how to work in the sugar house, but it's not the way that we will work, but maybe more how we gonna install things and organize the sugar house to have pleasure to work in it. And because for the last few years we have really warm season and hot sap, I will put more. I will talk more about the quality of the sap in the same presentation. So let's start with easy thing. If we use oil, we need storage. And if that tank is not well fixed and going on the ground, you can imagine how it costs to repair the soil, replace the soil, and everything. It is so expensive to take care about a spill like that. So we have to think to have uh, at your left, it's the one wall tank, but the concrete can keep all the oil of that tank if it's broke. So that's a security. At your right, you have two walls tank. So if the wall inside crack, you still have another wall to keep all the oil in the tank. So I think it's a minimum of security to have one of those two solutions, because if if, if eventually you have a spill of oil on the ground, it's you cannot imagine how it will be really cost you money. So that was an easy one. Wood. So if we take all the sugar farm in North America, Ontario, Quebec, New Brunswick, and all the states that doing maple syrup, um, we will find that the majority of the farms use wood. Maybe not the majority of the syrup is done with wood, because larger farms have other kind of fuel. But if we take all the numbers of farms, there are thousands and thousands of farms that are still using wood to doing syrup. And that's correct, because we have that normal capacity, easy capacity to take our wood, and it's it's a good way to do maple syrup. Still a good way. So if you need a lot of wood, maybe you can be creative when you pile it. But some people have decided to work with more mechanically. So here you see the storage to protect from the rain, but you will take it with a bobcat like this and bring it more near on the sugar house when you need it. So there's a big tools to cut the logs, split the logs really rapidly, and after he can bring the wood when he needed it in the near the sugar house each day. So I know people who have 25, 50, or 100,000 taps that are using split wood because new evaporator needs less wood because they burn the gas, not, and you can, and because they are airtight, we open the door only between 30 to 60 minutes. So it's not like the old evaporator that we had by the past that we open the door, it's 12 or 15 minutes. It's now 30 to 60 minutes. And if you increase the RO with the bricks, you will do a lot of syrup with a few wood. So things are changing. So it's still possible to do a lot of syrup with ordinary wood like that. So imagine that you want to work with rack. So you can bring your rack in the wood, split the wood, the piece of wood, and place it in the rack in the wood. And after you bring it near the sugar house, so there's less manipulation because after that you take a rack for today or maybe two if you have a big farm, and it's more mechanical after that. So that's a good way to work. Just for example, with a rack like this, with 2 feet long log, 2 feet long, when you bring your bricks really high, like 25 to 30, you can do 4 drums of syrup with that. Oh my God, that's not a big quantity of wood. So wood is still a good possibility of fuel. With a high bricks, you can use just a few pieces of wood and produce a lot of syrup. If you prefer to have woods but more automatic, you can use the pellets. You can have small bag and or a silo, and in that case, you will use wood, but it have to be processed somewhere else to bring it in with that presentation. But it is still less expensive than oil. So this is it is right in between the price for a barrel. If you use pellets, it will be right between the price of ordinary wood and oil. But we have the possibility to use chips too. So if you take the branch or the logs, depending on the machine that you have, you can do your own chips, and you will have the possibility to bring that fuel, natural fuel, by a mechanism that will be automatic. Bring those particles automatically in your evaporator. So or you can buy it. I have people who are living near mines where they do logging and cutting logging. So they take the shaving and for a few money and they just protect it and use it. But when you use wood like this, it takes 4 times more place than ordinary log because of the air. So it needs a lot of storage. And you have to take care about how it will be evaluated in the time. Because of the humidity, it's possible that this it's possible to have fire in it because it will be so hot with the fermentation that it can have fire in it. Problem. Or sometimes with the humidity, when it's really cold, it can just be fixed all together with ice, and it's impossible to work with it. So you have to manage the possibility that it gets in a block of ice or taking fire. So it's not so easy to work with wood chips, but it's not impossible. In your sugar house, okay, I will stop a few times by blocks of different in my presentation about the management for the fuel, wood, oil, pellets, or shaving. Do we have any question?
No, you're good, Joel.
Okay. So, because many of us are thinking about a new sugar house and for the future, to burn all that fuel, no matter the kind of fuel that you will use, you need oxygen. So when our sugar house is really well constructed, sometimes it's so airtight that we have enough oxygen to burn the wood or the oil for maybe 20 minutes. After that, we're out of oxygen, and the combustion of your fuel will be really bad, and the flame will be more orange in your under your pan, and the heat will be less than you want. So when you build the new sugar house, you have to think about that. Some people will open the door when they boil to get all that oxygen, but if it's cold outside, it's not comfortable to open the door all the time. Yes, there are some days that it's really nice and warm, but sometimes we boil when it's cold and rainy or really not comfortable to open the door. If you open a window, maybe you will have a small breeze on your neck, and again you will have another flu during your season, and we're always sick because of that. So in that case, that tubing, that drain tubing is installed just beside the sugar house, get under the floor, and reappear under the evaporator. So there's no fan. It's not a normal circulation, but the evaporator itself will bring the oxygen back that passage, and it will have all the oxygen needs to have a good combustion. This is a possibility, but we have to install that under the floor before we'll put the concrete. Drain. Uh, Most of the time we don't put enough of them, and it's really complicated after that because when we wash in the sugar where we in the evaporator room, in the RO room, always think about have a good drain and with a kind of surface that you can roll with the small wheels or like the wheels of the filter press and things like that. In that case, it passed really easily. It is not a fancy sugar house, but it was everything in that sugar house was made to be fun, a good place to work. Concrete can be, we can slip easily, so you can buy different kind of paint or other kind of thing that you can put on your concrete, and you will be now more safe and less slippery. And there are different kind of that, and some of them, if you don't put them correctly on the ground, become more slippery. So it's not just to have a washable surface that you need. You need a washable surface, but not slippery. So you have to take care about the choice of what you're going to put on the ground. And it's possible to have both. Something that is easy to clean, but not that it would be not easy to slip on it. Because you cannot let the floor with only normal concrete like that, because there's a dust coming from there all the time. It's not really considered food grade condition when you let the concrete with this normal exposition like that. You have to put a kind of seal that will maintain the dust from the concrete not going in the air, and it will be less porous and more washable. But take care to not make something that will be easy to slip on it. Because we are producing food, we have to take care to be sure that there's no part of the light, if it's broken, that will be fall in what we are producing. So the light must be covered. And the roof will have to be washable too. Sometimes we forget that a hose can blow. So we all see that on the room of the RO, in the room of the evaporator, the hose of the concentrate broke, or the hose of the filter press broke, and we have sap or syrup everywhere. So our really nice wood finish wall will be full of sugar. And how do we wash that? And if we don't, it will be coming black with moisture. So we have to decide where it should be nice and where it should be a place for work. And sometimes we have to make choice. Think that how the surface that I put now, if something happens, will I be able to wash it if something happens? Because of the mouse and mice possibility in the sugar house, where it's really highly suggest to protect all the wire with the electricity in it from the mice. That's a good example. And if you want insulation, if you take a normal pink insulation like that, that kind of wool, you will be comfortable in your sugar house. But mice, again, are really happy to get in there. So because our construction are in the woods, and they are not 100% mouse proof, we suggest more to take that kind of wool, because mice have not the same capacity to make a good place to live with that compared to the pink one. So when we do a construction in the wood, this one will be better because of the less capacity of the mice to do a place to live in that compared to that. That is really well for the mice. This is really bad for them.
I have a question. Joel, there's a question if you can take one.
Yes.
Okay.
Joel, what about spray foam? Is that suitable?
Say that again.
He's wondering about spray foam in insulation. Is that a suitable alternative?
A foam that get expand.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, it will be fantastic for the quality of the installation, but for our kind of work, it will be more this that will be profitable because it depends of what room, but the one that's inflate is really interesting and easy to put. But again, what about the mice? If they can easily make their way in it and live in it.
Thank you.
Another question, Joel?
Yeah.
Question. We put a new sugar house and pump house down below, and we used a sea can and spray foamed all inside for the pumps and everything. And we had ants burrowing in the spray foam after sugar season. So we were down doing some stuff, so we weren't expecting that.
So Joel, the comment is that someone tried spray foam and the ants love to live in it.
That's right. So when we build our house, the engineer thinking about to be really tight everywhere for the insect and for the mice and everything. When we build in the woods, our standard are a little bit less higher, and exactly some animals or some insect will be too easily go in it. Yeah, your commentary is right.
Okay.
So drainage. If we put good drainage in the ground, that's good. But where do we direct all that liquid? And all the drains in the sugar house have to go somewhere. So sometime with bigger farm, we have a lot of liquid coming out from our sugar house. So when we have a small operation, normally all the drains are supposed to be there. So if the drains ends on the ground, the things that we use like a soap or acid will be fixed with the organic matter with the leaves on the ground, and it will stop there, and we have no problem with that. So for many years, because our farms were small, the liquid was only direct on the ground like this. But with the time, we begin bigger, and most of the time, our sugar house are near the river and the stream because we're supposed to build them on the bottom of the hill to have a good slope for the tubing. So if the sugar house is downhill, there's always a stream or a river. So because we are so good plumbers, we construct our drains and bring them to the stream because it was logical for us. This liquid, I will extend my pipe and it will go in my stream and it will go and I'm okay. It's done. Good job for plumber. So it will be correct if it was water, but we don't have only water coming from our sugar house. So, and with the bigger and bigger farm, we have to take care about some things. So let's compare to what people with the animals done by the past. The farm are became bigger. There was more manure on each farm. There was less farm, but each farm has more manure. So they have to figure rules. When should we put the manure? How much per acre we should use? And all those rules are now accepted, and they're supposed to be less manure in the river, in the stream. So if they have success with that group of people, we can also have success. So what are the two major things that is concerned by this? It is the when you wash your arrow, you can use um, acid, you can use soap, you can use peroxide. So there's a few things. But for if I talk in Quebec, the people of environment are really concerned about acid and base, alkaline product. So they are the two things that are now see. So against only have good drains, we are now planning to intercept what is getting in the drain sometime. Okay, it's only permeate, it can go out. Okay, it's only sap. Okay, it can go out too. It's a flush from soap from the arrow. Okay, we intercept it. So we are in our new sugar house, do the plumbing of in the ground, in the floor, that sometimes what the liquid in the tubing in the drains can go out directly, and sometimes we have to intercept them. So we have to refigure our drains, and it's the same for the evaporator. If when you use an acid to wash your pans, we can think about how to intercept the when you drain the acid from your pan, and after you intercept it, you can put it in a tank that would be used only for that. And we are thinking about the possibility to do a neutralization. So if you have used an acid, you will take something alkaline to get back to the neutral zone near 7. And if you do a soap and you're really alkaline, you will use maybe an acid to make it more neutral. This is not effective yet. This is what is supposed to be done soon in Quebec for the big operation. For the small operation, we are not planning to figure that kind of neutralization. But 20,000 taps and more, we have to figure our farms to intercept acid and alkaline liquid, neutralize them before make them go outside. So if you think it's a lot of work to do that, that's a good thinking to have to say, hey, why not use less acid and less soap? If I use less acid and less soap, because there's many ways to clean the pan, and there's many ways to clean an arrow that will not necessarily asking you to use some chemical product. There's mechanical, there are washing machine for the pan. We can eat the permeate to wash the arrow. So if we want, we can reduce a lot the quantity of chemical to wash the pan and the arrow. So there will be less neutralization for the big farm. A lot of you are like me. A lot of you in Ontario have less than 5,000 taps. So you are considered like me as a small farm. And if we take the new rules that will be applicable on the about this subject, uh, we will not in Quebec will have to make that kind of neutralization. What for the small farm, what they will ask us, it will be sure that you will not extend your plumbing to put the acid and the alkaline liquid direct on the stream or direct in the lake or direct in the wet zone. Come back to the past and direct your drain in a place at a certain distance of the stream or the lake of the wet or the wet zone. Let's say 200 feet. So for those who are directly near and the drain is going direct in the stream, that means for the small farming that they will ask us, okay, let's put an installation here that you can intercept the drain when it contains chemical, use a pump and push the liquid at a good distance, like a minimum of 200 feet on the ground, and the chemical will be fixed there. So that will be good for the small farm. And for the bigger farm, they will ask in Quebec to neutralize. In Vermont, it is a discussion for years too, and some people transport the 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 chemical contamination with acid and alkaline to make them treat somewhere else that costs money. So because when you have a large farm, you see those are only liquids coming from the drain of a really large sugar farm. So they create a stream during the season only with what is coming from the drains of the floor of the sugar house. If that contain acid and alkaline product, it's too much and getting in the river and the downhill. So that's why they ask them to treat before release. So for the big, you understand, treatment is necessary. For the small, just be sure that you don't put direct in the stream. And so I don't know in Ontario where the government is going for the future, but today it could give you an idea where it can be a possibility for you to eventually. Any question about the management of the quality of the wastewater?
No questions, Joel.
Thank you. So now all the management in the sugar house must be do with the thinking that what I do, is it okay for the quality of the sap? Because we have many jobs as the sugar farmer. We have to take care of the forest. We have to be forester. We have to install tubing everywhere. We have to be the best plumber. And we have to keep something really fragile. Sap is fragile. When we saw it like this, we say, no, sap is fantastic. Not always. Sap can be really not really fantastic because sap is water with sugar. And because it contains sugar, there's a lot of microorganisms that is living in it. So that's just a part of some microorganism is living in sap. So there's a lot of people in there. And Those microbes are really varied, but they're not really dangerous. They can make you feel bad, but killing you is difficult. But the microbes are not dangerous for our health, but they are necessary because if I don't have any microbes, I will never have the flavor of maple. So a sterile sap with no microbes will provide you a kind of syrup that will be only a sugar taste, maybe a little bit of vanilla, but no maple and no caramel taste. And if you like the maple to taste, the true maple, you need some microorganism. But if you have too much microorganism, you can understand that you will have problem. So it's a question of balance. I need them, but not too much, just enough. So those are the same sap, the two glass here. At your right, just left the tree. If you boil it now, there's not a lot of microorganism in it, and you will have a really light coloring with a small taste of maple at your right. But if you let your sap stand and wait, the microorganism will develop and you will have a darker syrup with a lot more caramelization in it. Okay. So we can, we know that this is the normal season. It's getting darker and darker as we move to the end of the season because there are more microorganisms in our sap. The question of contamination. So never forget that your sap is sap with water, is water with sugar. So treat it like milk. If you do plumbing, if you install things, if you make the sap wait, always ask you in your mind, okay, if it was milk, could I do that? Should I drink that milk tomorrow morning after 11, let it in the sun in something black for 24 hours? You will probably say, no, sap is like milk. It contains sugar. It evaporates and eventually get to a bad quality. So our old sugar house were really low in insulate. And gradually we have better insulation until to get to that point where I think that sugar house is really well insulated. So the sap in it is warmer than in the past because it's no more frosting in that sugar house. So, and if sap is like milk, before by the past, we remember to have ice in the storage tank because it was cold this night. But in that sugar house, I don't think there will never be some ice in the sugar tank. I'm sure. So if the sap is getting really bad quality, you will have something like this, a rupee syrup. This is the possibility of too much contaminated sap. And it's coming from a bacteria that we know. And that bacteria is living with the other kind of bacteria, but sometimes it take all the place and it produce the rupee syrup. So really bad quality sap can do that. Also, there's another kind of problem. We can have sour syrup. This is in the same day on the same farm, two kind of syrup. At your left, you have a normal dark syrup at the end of the season with a lot of caramel in it. At your right, on the same day, you have a really light coloring syrup because it is sour. And it's because the sap who is boiling at your right is so contaminated that it give a sour taste. And it's really not good. To have sour syrup is because something somewhere in the line where the sap is passing is really, 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 really dirty. Not enough wash and clean. And sour is so a problem that in the Vermont state, when they give to producer some bad off flavor example, sour is one of them because uh, they want to be sure that people know that sour exists and they present it to the producer. And most of the time, it's come from the underground tubing system. So underground tubing system can be something good for you, but if it's not well cleaned and sanitized, it provides more and more sour syrup. So deciding to have that kind of installation means that you decide to know how to wash that really well. And this is a complete subject that take a complete hour. But for today, I'll just say, when you decide to use underground tubing, you have the obligation to know how to wash it to avoid the sour syrup eventually. Not enough tubing, washing of the tubing, the normal tubing, can give you sap with things like this in the tubing. It's really, really not clean. Uh, this is someone who stopped to wash the the main line for a couple of years, and when he came back after a few years, said, "Okay, I'm gonna use bleach again or peroxide again in my main line," and this is what he find at the end of the season. Say, "Wow, wow, that's it's probably a good idea to wash my main line, one per year at the end of the season." And sometime uh, there's a you have sap in a tank that you look at it and you're really, really not sure that it's really in good shape. Sometimes it's correct to throw on the ground some sap. So washing the tubing for the main line can be done by vacuum. And if you if you're not doing it at the end of the season, you can still do it in the summer or in the fall. And I will finish with a few minutes about what about for the boiling. So the if you can boil every day, it's sure that you roll your inventory of sap and you get out of the problem. Sometimes the evaporator is too big or the flow of the trees is too small, so you have to boil a couple of times per week. So in that time, it's possible to put the concentrate in a bulk tank with refrigeration, with a compressor, but you have to go as low as -2. If you only go to +1 Celsius, it's too warm to keep the concentrate a few days. And if the sap arrive with that quality, with that bad quality, this will not protect you for sour or rupee. To put concentrate in a bulk tank with refrigeration, the sap have to be a minimum correct. It will not repair sap. Your RO capacity is probably your best friend because sometimes we are not boiling as soon as we want because we are waiting about our RO that it's too slow. So that's the first place to put money in your sugar house. Always have a really good capacity of RO. You push the button, you have exactly the the bricks that you want on the first pass at a flow rate that can go in the evaporator, and the evaporator has the same flow rate. That costs money. But when you can start the RO and start the evaporator practically at the same moment, that means that they are on the same flow, and you are not waiting about. So you will not have to evaporate tonight because you are waiting about your RO all day. Or maybe you will not waiting to boil tomorrow because you take all the day to concentrate because your RO is slow. So problem with the sap that is waiting create more possibility of contamination and rupee and sour. So a good arrow will protect you from that. Uh, so where do you put our sap when the flow is good or really good flow? If you don't have enough tank, you will probably make bad decision. And because of that, you will lose syrup, or you can do darker syrup. So yes, 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 Wayne. 2 minutes. I'm done. Or maybe you will try to work on a base on 24 hours, and all your workers are really, really tired. So you need good tanks, and you need a good arrow. So what is good tanks for Ontario? Because you have a really good capacity of yield because you have less snow than Quebec. In Quebec here, we say the minimum is 1 gallon per tap for storage. If I would be in Ontario, I will consider 1.5 to 2 gallon of syrup per tap because you have bigger yield possibility. If it is in a station that it's the station and you push the sap to the sugar house, that capacity should be 0.5 gallon per tap in the station. Some people will storage the sap and try to cool it with different techniques. Some people will try to cool make cool the sap because it passed underground and say, hey, my sap is now less heat. But don't forget, when we go underground, there are some risks. So would you prefer a tank normal like this with the possibility to transfer when it's too full? Would you prefer to have a pool and to have a bigger capacity? This is fragile. Do you prefer to have a plastic tank? They are porous. They are difficult to clean, but they are cheap, not expensive. This is probably the most perfect storage possibility. This is not expensive, but difficult to manage. This is complicated because it's porous and really, really warm, and this is more contaminated than that because it's porous and difficult to clean. This is a picture that I think that I take in Ontario last year with you in the tour. Sometimes you can expand your storage outside like this with insulate tank like that, and it could be with facilities like that. If you don't have enough place in your sugar house, you can build a place just for the storage, or you can go with the silo. It's a new possibility. But when you get the time to clean, it's easier to clean a normal tank than a silo.
Joel,
Yes,
unfortunately, we have to go because the next lecture starts at 10:30.
and I'm done.
Oh,
Ah,
fantastic.
so readjust your work and you will be rewarded. You were good. Thank you.
Hey, merci. Très bien. Thank you very much, Joel. Everybody, you had 64 people listening to you this morning.
Hey, that's good. Have a nice day in Ontario.